Do you want to be successful? Then watch this. Many people wonder why they are yet to hit their target and become as successful as they want to become, not knowing that procrastination is one of the major hindrances to a successful living. Probably you don't even know your procrastination personality, but this video will help you know what procrastination personality you have. For me, mine is basically number 1, number 5, and number 6. Watch this and tell us in the comment section. The perfectionist procrastinator. He tends to put forth excessive amount of time and energy trying to make sure that everything he does is perfect. He also puts off starting tasks due to fear of failure or doubt of doing things the right way. He also focuses more on what he has to do rather than what he wants to do. Now, what are the strategies for the perfectionist procrastinator? He must strive for excellence rather than perfection. He needs to focus on what is realistic rather than what is ideal. He needs to forget about all or nothing law. He also needs to focus more on what he wants to do rather than what he has to do. He also needs to set a time limit for every task at hand. He also needs to have a daily to-do list that is short and is practical. The defier procrastinator. They tend to see life in terms of what others want them to do, not in terms of what they want to do for themselves. They tend to avoid expressions of the negative feelings by procrastinating, and they use procrastination as a means of defiling or rebelling against authority. They tend to be pessimistic. By so doing, they undercut their motivation and delay performing tasks in due time. You could hear them say, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not saying anything right now. In fact, I will not just come. And in fact, every other person that is in this thing with me, let's not go. Let's show chairman that this thing he's saying, we cannot do it. Now, what are the strategies for the defier procrastinator? He needs to understand that what people want him to do is not a demand, it's not a command, but it's a choice. If he does not want to do it, he should not do it. He should mean what he says and do what he means. And also, he should strive to act and not react. Whatever he needs to do, he must do it when he needs to do it and how he needs to do it. And when he fails to do it, he must own up to it. And lastly, most importantly, he must learn to work with the team and not against the team. The dreamer procrastinator. He runs away from anything that is hard. He tends to be passive rather than active. He pays very little attention to details. So when things become hard, he starts crying, somebody help me, somebody help me. He sees himself as a special person for which faith will always intervene. God will work it out. God will work it out. One thing I know. What are the strategies for the dreamer procrastinator? He must differentiate between dreams and goals. He must ask himself specific questions like how, what, where, why, how, which, how is it going to happen? He must also understand that there is a difference between I will and I wish. I will try and I like to. He must not join between those things. And he must also change the someday and one day to very specific date. And then he must plan every project in writing. When he does that, he's going to see that his life turns out for better. The crisis procrastinator. This is definitely me. First of all, he ignores the task at hand like it's a small thing. He's definitely going to do it. And then suddenly he gets overwhelmed by it. He gets easily bored and resists the dullness of doing things in an organized manner and methodically. And then he loves the drama and easily makes himself the center of attraction. And then he proves himself by living on the edge. Every time he's living on the edge. Now, what are the strategies for the crisis procrastinator? He has to look for other motivations apart from stress. He has to create other motivators around his life. Perhaps create systems of award and encouragement of self to do things even when he or she does not feel like carrying out those activities. He must look for a system that avoids the occurring crisis in his life. He must learn to delegate important assignments to other persons who are willing and always available and ready to carry out the tasks. And he must learn to carry out assignments long before the deadline to avoid crisis from reoccurring. procrastinator. The overdoer procrastinator tends to have a low self-esteem, so he receives more roles and responsibilities than he's able to handle. He lacks the ability to distinguish or differentiate between responsibilities, priorities, or demand. He doesn't know the difference. He accepts so many roles, responsibilities, and duties, assignments, that he easily gets distracted from the specific duties that he's meant to do, and therefore lose focus and just messes up everything at the end of the day. He lacks true self-discipline, especially in regards to his personal needs. He finds it very difficult to relax without feeling guilty or feeling like he has broken one law. Now, what are the strategies for the overdoer procrastinator? The overdoer procrastinator must understand and recognize the difference between priorities and demand. He or she must stop depending on other people for approval. He must learn to say no when he needs to say no, and must learn to ask for help when he needs it. He must enlist other people onto the work. He must ask for help. He must learn to delegate. It is not a crime to delegate responsibility. You can't do everything on your own. You can't save the whole world. You can't deliver everybody. So he must learn to ask for help. He must learn to say, no, this one I cannot do it. Then he must make and follow diligently and strictly a to-do list by which he'll be able to understand that, okay, this one is important and this one is not so important. And then he must be able to be in charge of activities and not allow activities to be in charge of him. So at the end of the day, he's going to be relaxed, he's going to be refreshed, and be able to do much more important things. Thank you. The warrior procrastinator. The warrior procrastinator lacks confidence in himself, causing him to avoid or delay performance of certain actions. He's also usually very indecisive, making it difficult for him to stay committed to the very decisions that they make. They're also dependent on other people for reaffirmation, reassurance, and for help. And then they also have a high resistance to change. They prefer the safety of the known to the risk or the uncertainty of the unknown. Now, what are the strategies for the warrior procrastinator? The warrior procrastinator must recognize that making no decision is in itself a decision already. He must change the I don't know to one thing I do know is this. He must change the I can't to compound statement like I can't, but I can do this. And then he must be able to each day and each week be able to do something that he finds uncomfortable or difficult in doing, and also be able to break down large unsurmountable goals to